So I'm sitting there last night and I'm scanning negatives as I do, right? And it's a particularly grindy kind of task. It's very labor intensive and tedious. But you're sitting at your computer, right? So I thought, I will be a normal person for once and I will watch a damn TV show on my computer while I'm doing this task, right? I will entertain myself for fun. So I watched HBO's Chernobyl. Damn it. I'm only 2 episodes in, right? So no spoilers. No, I don't want to know what happens. But I think the moral of the story, it's already becoming clear to me that the moral of the story is that human beings should not be trusted with more power than like a campfire. Last week, I would have said we shouldn't even be trusted with a campfire, but then I found out that instead of accidents or arson or whatever, the California wildfires were actually caused by Jewish space lasers. This is the Sunday Antisocial Hour, that time each week when I brave these sub-zero Celsius temperatures to come down here and smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. And if you have a question for me, leave it in the comments down below with the hashtag AskMax, because that is the only way that I can generate any interesting content for my channel. It's called crowdsourcing. By the way, if you're an aspiring journalist out there, I don't know why you would be watching my channel if you were, but if your publisher starts talking about crowdsourcing, you need a new job. Just saying. Just saying. Anyway, it's really cold down here. There's snow all over the place. My feet are wet, and we're out of kerosene. We ran out. See, I told you, human beings should not be trusted with any means of making heat. This week, I am continuing my scientific experiment with my pipe and tobacco. I am smoking the same. What pipe was I smoking? I don't know, but I was smoking Charing Cross last week, and I am smoking Charing Cross again today. Just delightful. And the difference is that last week the Charing Cross was frozen because I left it down here. And it's not frozen because this time I took it upstairs. And shocking conclusion, tobacco is better when it's not frozen. Cassidy Rose asks Max, you say you are uncomfortably cold all winter long, but what is it that truly makes you uncomfortable? Cutting right to the heart. You're getting just stabbing deep. Okay. I think it's people. People make me uncomfortable. I'm thinking about this a lot in my business this week of like how I see other photographers or other artists whose work is just fine, making so much more headway into the usual metrics of success, or at least they seem to be. Because they are comfortable schmoozing, right? They're comfortable selling themselves as the solution to whatever problems the person they're talking to might be having. I wish I were more comfortable. It truly makes me uncomfortable to be like, you know what? You need my photography in your life, or your life should. No, you don't. You'll be okay without it. It's just nice to have. Even going back to my days working in music instrument retail where, like the holidays were this big thing where you had to save the business each year. Like you lose money all year long and then you got to save it with the holidays. I just, that kind of thing I'm not interested in anymore. I'm not interested in like people, the people, the manufacturers and the management and the salespeople, they don't care about the things that they're selling. And I don't want to be like that because I really care about the things that I'm selling. So it makes me uncomfortable. The hyper-capitalism aspect of it makes me uncomfortable. I am truly made uncomfortable by that. However, after 4 years of hyper-patriotism and capitalism and all that, let's just take a moment and go watch Chernobyl. Let's just remember that they almost killed an entire continent out of incompetence, as opposed to basically the equivalent of other continents that they killed on purpose. Brings us to our next compelling question. Blake 1827 asks Max, why do extremely wealthy Americans continue to run for office? Is it simply just a power grab, influence ego thing, or is there some genuine altruistic motives among the deep state socialists? Well, Okay, let's start with the basic Griblerian philosophy. We'll go back. You guys remember that project I did, Gribley's Folly? Anyway, we'll go back. Never, ever, ever attribute good things to people when bad things make more sense. So there's no altruism in politics. Let me just stop you right there. I know you were joking, but in case there's some impressionable young lad or lass out there, or whatever, there's some impressionable young they out there that might get the wrong idea. Politicians are never good. And I say this as someone who has known more than my fair share, and I have trouble reconciling this. I knew a guy that hated cops one time, and he made friends with a cop, and it was really hard. And he basically just said, as long as she's not in uniform, we can hang out. But if she's wearing the uniform, we can't hang out. I have what I would consider good friends who have been elected to office, and it's tough. It's tough for me because I had a good friend way back in the day who was elected to office, and we're not friends anymore. So, yeah, there's some trauma there. Yeah, there's some that makes me uncomfortable too. Thank you for asking, Cassidy Rose. But I mean, Blake has basically laid it bare here with the question. It's like, you're already filthy rich. Why would you want to run for, like, what could you possibly have to gain? And so, like, if Bloomberg were altruistic, and I don't want to hit Bloomberg too hard because he did drop out of the race. But there's plenty of other altruistic things he could have done. Let's be honest. I think that, yeah, it's just easier to say they're all a bunch of evil, vile individuals. And again, watching Chernobyl, that there's a culture of corrupt incompetence. That is what we've created. That's our major accomplishment as human beings. Quiet Storm says, we were talking last week about getting rid of a hobby. If you got too many hobbies. Quiet Storm says, if I had to get rid of a hobby, it would probably be the thinking part of pipe smoking. I would continue smoking my pipe, but not like thinking about all the stuff. And he mentions humanity's state of affairs. But I think that pipe smokers do ourselves quite a disservice by overthinking this. Which is not the best segue into what I want to say next, but I watched Pipes and Kayaks video marking the first anniversary of John's death, Matches 860, and we were all really affected by it. And I don't want to make a big thing about it because I didn't know John. I mean, we weren't personally friends or anything like that, and but I will say that. As opposed to, I don't know, Mikhail Gorbachev, John was a great leader in that he rose to power organically. He led by example. He was what we all aspired to be, I think. And I know that there were some out there that wanted to go different directions. And anyway, what I'm trying to say is that people like John, who were sort of the first wave of the YTPC, they are what's good about what happens when a human community comes together. And just like what Pipes and Kayaks said, I think that, well, for me, John's death was what made 2020 start to seem real. Like, up until late January of that year, there was the Australian wildfires, and everybody was kind of whispering about this whole coronavirus thing. But when John died, it was like, oh man, something really sucky well, there was the Iranian thing too. There was that. But John's death was the first hitting home personal gut punch for me of 2020. And it just preceded all that came after in this way, like that, like looking back now seems extra significant. Like oh, the first hit was to the YTPC, like this community that we all value. Um, yeah, and I don't know. I don't really have any, like, I'm not going anywhere with this. It's just sad that John died. John Ragoza asked Max a lengthy question, which I will paraphrase because it's freaking freezing in here. And I don't want this video to go too long. On the tobacco topic, I find pipe smokers all fall into one pit that creates aggravation that seems unavoidable. And he's talking about the little pinch of unburned tobacco at the bottom of your pipe at the end of your smoke that you seem to clean out and toss in your ashtray. And then he sort of makes some disclaimers. Yes, you can properly pack your bowl. You can do things to minimize the little bit of unburned tobacco down there. But you end up wasting some tobacco. Like, tobacco is lost and not enjoyed as part of the smoking process. And so he says that his solution is to add a pinch of Lane 1Q or Lane BCA or some other lesser tobacco. I don't even know that I would call Lane 1Q a tobacco. It's a Lane 1Q. It's like when you buy the sliced cheese in the grocery store and it just says sliced cheese product. That's what Lane 1Q is to me. So anyway, basically he says that he pads the bottom of his bowl with a lesser tobacco so that he enjoys all of his premium tobacco. And then when it gets to the lesser tobacco, he can discern a difference and realize that the bowl is over. And I think that's a pretty good strategy if you want to go to that trouble. Me, I'm just like, you know what? I have more tobacco than I could ever possibly smoke in my entire life, especially in these COVID days. I'm just not going to worry about the tenth of a gram of tobacco at the very bottom of the bowl. Plus, I mean, there's waste in everything, right? There's always. I think when you start trying to game the system so you're not wasting your good stuff. I mean, Lane 1Q is not free. Should be. I mean, actually, they should pay you to take it, but you're still spending money on it. So I don't know. Oh, Martin from Over a Pipe got one of his kids who's been to school to write this for him. Should Biden grant amnesty to, because Martin can't read, that's ongoing. I notice he never rises to that joke. He's pretty good about that. Should Biden, for someone that can't read, should Biden grant amnesty to unborn babies trying to cross the border of the womb into the U.S.? So, okay. Or should immigrants who arrive at our borders be considered as still being in their third trimester of their trek? What say you? I have no idea what you're talking about, Martin. To cross the border of the womb? Do you mean people that are being born in the United States? If people in the... Yes. Oh, I spoke too soon. Illiterate Martin says... Illiterate Martin says, when are you going to bring back the Indiana Jones hat? And what was your favorite part of the epic Academy Award-winning sequel to the trilogy, Part 4? There was none. There was no sequel to the trilogy. You can't have a sequel to a trilogy. It would just be a Part 4, but it didn't happen. There was no Kingdom of the Crystal what? No, nothing. No. And the fifth one that's not going to happen either. I do appreciate Harrison Ford saying no one else is going to be Indiana Jones but him. I think the minute he's in the ground, Disney will buy all the rights to those movies and cast Shia LaBeouf or Khloe Kardashian or whatever as the next Indiana Jones. But those movies will never be canon. All right? Can we get that straight? Go check out Martin Over a Pipe. He's got the Let Her Rip Friday show that I try to tune into every other week at least, because that's when my parenting time is. It's a thing anyway. And he's got sound bites on his show, and so he says he's going to add a new sound bite just for me. Is it on par with Star Wars, Star Trek, and all that? I'm gonna. Star Wars sucks, y'all. Let's get real here. Let's get It's not that good. It's just not that good. Now, the original three from back in the day are incredibly watchable and enjoyable. But the universe that has been built around this idea is just one giant cash grab. Like Jar Jar. Freaking Jar Jar. I mean, no, I'm done. And then like each new thing has its own Jar Jar, like the Baby Yoda thing, which I haven't seen. And some people tell me that Baby Yoda is actually a quality character. I'll take your word for it. Timber Drifter, no, I'm a wrench, says Timber Drifter sent me this way to see what the hell is going on around here. Welcome, I'm a wrench. Any friend of Timber Drifter is a friend of mine. Does Timber Drifter have friends? Or is he just one of those guys that like, he breezes into the saloon? You know, he like walks up to the swinging doors and like comes into the saloon and like drinks with some people, and they have like very muted emotional correspondence around a game of cards or something, and then he just like timber drifts off into the sunset. I mean, I don't know. I'm a wrench, asks Max. So if you meditated 20 minutes every day for 2 years, which I did, at which point did you reach nirvana? Never. And what did it look like? I don't know, because I didn't make it. I am not. I respect people who say that they can meditate their way to some sort of spiritual enlightenment. And, you know, that holds exactly as much weight for me as any other path to spiritual enlightenment, be it mushrooms or mountain climbing or whatever. Like, you know, everybody's got to find what they're going to find their own way. And so I'm not saying meditation is stupid, but I am saying that I think that if you go into it looking for that, you're not. I don't know. I meditated for 2 years. There's people out there that have meditated for like 4,000 years and were then like encased in a, you know, a clay statue, and then they're still meditating in there according to the religious but not religious adherence to their philosophy. I don't know. Whatever. Were pipes and good tobacco allowed in Nirvana? Of course. What? It would not be Nirvana without pipes and good tobacco. Howard asked Max. By the way, he says he wants to unleash his inner trolls here. Always welcome. Always welcome, as long as you don't mind being trolled back. You can choose the high road. You can choose the low road. Seems the middle road and the middle class are fading fast. Comments. I don't know that I ever understood what the middle class is, in spite of being solidly middle class my entire life. I feel that, and maybe this is just growing up and becoming wise to the situation. When I was a kid, Roseanne was a popular show. Excuse me. Hang on. I realized that I don't. This is like the most I've talked in a week, right? I don't. You guys are like, in terms of physically talking to people, you guys are the ones that get the brunt of my talkitude, because at no other time do I sit down for 20 minutes and talk. So that's why my voice is a little rusty there, because it's been a week of pandemic time and I don't ever have anyone to talk to. Anyway, when I was a kid, we watched Roseanne, and we watched Roseanne because we thought that John Goodman and Roseanne were awfully charming in their low classness, right? In my house, we looked at these people as low class. And now as an adult, I'm like, wait a minute, they had a house. They had vehicles. They had like 3 kids and furniture and occasionally a luxury or two. Like, they were solidly middle class. Except, is that right? Like, they struggled. The whole point of the show was that they struggled. The moral of the show is that Roseanne Barr is insane. But the point of the show was that this family struggled, and they like achieved all their personality through struggle. Is middle class when you're comfortable enough that you don't struggle. That's like when you're just, I don't even know anybody. Well, no, that's not true. I do know some people that are just comfortable, and I just resent the hell out of them. Alex Bush asks Max, regarding camera bodies, are you at all concerned about the reliability issues Sony has had? No, because I haven't heard of those reliability issues because I do not read about camera bodies on the internet unless they're really really old school cameras. But have they had? I don't even tell me if they've had reliability. But I'm still using the base model A7. Like let's get real here. I am not a person that chases the latest and greatest because I'm broke and I don't want to go out and buy a new camera if I don't need to. The A7s they're still just amazing to me with what they can do with that sensor. So Alex says Fuji is killing it in the mirrorless game with the X-T4 and their upcoming flagship X mount camera, and the Nikon D850 remains the best DSLR ever made. Cool. It's not about the cameras though. You know what I mean? I'm gonna Google this upcoming flagship X mount camera. All right, so the XT4 is still crop frame, right? Am I seeing this wrong? Blah 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 blah. 2 blah blah. Say 1.2 blah blah blah. XT4. I don't care. It's a tiny sensor. And what's the latest upcoming flagship Fuji X. Add best Fujifilm camera 2021 from digital camera. Oh, that's not what I want. Where's the DP review pixel peeping XE4? Is that what we're talking about here? Lightweight, blah blah, full frame. I'm not seeing full frame. I don't know. If it's not full frame, unfortunately I don't want to sound like an elitist, but I'm not going to be interested. Plus, it doesn't really matter. Like the camera body doesn't matter to me. The lenses matter, and the sensor itself matters. And I still think Sony it's really hard to beat the raw files that come out of a full frame Sony. All right, we've nerded out a little too much here. The Collapse Experiment has an interesting question. If Indiana Jones is the best movie series, where does the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles play into it? I've only seen one episode, and I was a kid when I watched it, so I don't know. I recall it being something about World War I and the big rail guns that they had. Not rail guns, but guns that ran on rails. And by the way, if you ever actually read about the old German rail artillery, that was not a good idea. Like, they were impressive when they worked, but they only got like 10 shots or something like that before they had to replace the barrels. And anyway, Ask Max, is part of being a shaman to claim to be a shaman, then say it's a joke to discredit yourself while really being a shaman? I mean, I could think of worse strategies, like storming the Capitol building with your shaman gear on. Yeah, I mean, let's put it like this. If I am actually a shaman, right? You out there watching your computer right now, if you believe it, it's true. Richard Ruckert says, do you scan your pics? Yes, sort of. I digitize them with my full frame Sony A7s and a macro lens. And I spend an inordinate amount of effort on getting that process nailed down. If I had to start all over again, I would probably buy a Pixelator, which is this, again, if you know, you know. If you're in that cult, go ahead and buy one. But it's basically a negative digitizing machine to use in conjunction with a digital camera and a macro lens, or your iPhone or whatever. But I like to make prints, so I got to actually use a real camera. Timber Drifter, talking about the snow video, he says, the danger is if you injure yourself and can't walk. That's exactly right. And I was watching some YouTube video. You know how you just you get in these YouTube rabbit holes? And I watched the video where this guy fell into a crevasse, whatever. He fell into one of those things. And do you call them different things if they're in different parts of the world? Like how a hurricane is a typhoon. Like if it's just a hole in the snow in Colorado, it's like a crevasse in the Alps or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that made me nervous watching that video. That was not really cool. I'm a Wrench says, glad you didn't die in the snow, although it would make your channel go viral. Don't think I haven't thought of that. Don't think I'm above faking my own death for the internet points. I'll do it. I'll do it. You watch out. And that is all the time that I want to be shivering in my garage today. So we're going to wrap this one up, but I've already compiled and it's almost ready to go. I just need to add the bitchin' soundtrack to another adventure video that will be coming out, I hope, this week. Thank you all so much for your attention and your devotion and your cult-like following of my shamanness. I hope you have a good week. Be careful out there. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.